Welcome to Financial Literacy, Shifting Your Money Mindset. My name is Danielle Tucker, and I work for New York Life Insurance Company, based out of the Boston General Office, but I live in Western Massachusetts, and I work throughout the state. You can reach me at the phone number there, or the email, or Facebook or LinkedIn. Today's agenda, we are going to be assessing your money mindset, addressing the 5 core competencies of financial literacy, and then creating our own personal financial strategy. If we were in person today, we would all have a workbook that we would be able to go through and create a financial plan of our own in. You can join me next week, Tuesday, February 25th at 7:30 p.m. at Make It Springfield, which is 168 Worthington Street, and I will be passing out those workbooks. We'll have snacks. We'll go through this presentation. You'll be able to ask me questions, and it'll be great. So let's get started. First, we're going to talk about our money mindsets then and now. So in the past, men have been at the head of the household. They've been, bringing in the paychecks, taking care of all of the bills, all of the banking, investing, all of the retirement funds. And there weren't that many women in the workforce. So there weren't that many women that were making money that really needed to manage it in the same way that a man would, quote unquote, in said society, which is this society, the society that, our parents and grandparents grew up in. Which is shifted because now there's more women in the workforce, and more women are, the primary breadwinners of their homes, and they're bringing home paychecks, and they're paying bills and investing and saving and all of those things. They're the household CFOs. So that means that in a lot of situations where the women aren't working, they're still managing the money that's coming into the house, but they may not have a say on the front end when their husband's checking things off from their 401k or putting money away into an IRA through their job, because they're not there with them. So those conversations are often left unhad, which is a bad thing, because those women also want to retire, and things happen. So you want to be prepared in case one person's plan doesn't really work out. The other person has something to fall back on, not just their husband or their wife. So if you're feeling unprepared, don't worry, you're not alone. A lot of adults don't budget, so everything that we're going to go through is starting square one, day one. If you know nothing about financial literacy, nothing about planning, nothing about budgeting, we'll take it step by step. Don't worry. Nearly 24% of adults do not pay all of their bills on time. So that means that a lot of adults don't have good credit. You're not alone. Don't worry. We're going to address a lot of things today and a lot of things in future sessions. So if you're missing something, let me know. We can cover it in a video. We can cover it in a session. We can schedule a one-on-one. We'll get you the answers you need. Nearly one out of four adults do not have any portion of their household annual income put away for retirement. That is terrifying. And I'm 23, and I'm swirling money away just in case. You really want to set yourself up so that future you isn't, 75 still working your job. Like, I hate it here. I want to go home. I wish I could be golfing with my friends or swimming on the beach or something. You want to be able to retire. Everybody dreams of not having to work someday. So we all need to be saving for retirement. So let's get started. These are the core competencies. So if you're at home and you're watching this and you want to write things down, these are what you really want to write down. These are what you're really going to need to focus on. Number 1, income. So understanding your paycheck. Most people work and take home a paycheck, and at the top it'll have net pay, and that's how much you would have earned. So say you earned $15 an hour and you work for 40 hours a week. That's like what, $600, I think? Correct me if my math is wrong, but I would love to take home a paycheck of $600 working 40 hours a week at a minimum wage job, that would be great. Um, you know, everybody deserves to earn that living wage. But unfortunately, taxes and benefits and other things that we don't get to reap the benefits of right now are taken out of our paychecks beforehand. And those things are, withholdings. So your gross pay is at $600 and your net pay is coming afterwards and it's what you take home. I don't want to give an estimate about, state taxes, federal taxes, or anybody's benefits, but I would say that looks somewhere around, 475, 525, depending on where you work. So withholdings, taxes. Let's talk about taxes. Everybody loves taxes. It's tax season. People are going to get their refunds. And a lot of people don't understand taxes. So these are the 2020 taxable income brackets and rates. So if you are a single filer, a single individual, you are not married, and you earn between $0 and $9,875, I hope I have a cursor here, between these two numbers, you are going to pay 10% tax. As soon as you go over that 975, that 974, you're paying 2% more in taxes. And then up to, $40,000, 125, you have that 12% tax. As soon as you go over it, you hit it, you're going to pay 22%. And then all of these numbers, double for married joint filers. So if you're two, you're one part of a half, and you're filing together, these are what your taxes are going to look like. Head of household filers are people who live with other adults and children and are claiming them, and they are the head of household. They're paying the majority of the bills in the household. They're getting a different tax bracket. Okay, they're filing differently. Their numbers are a little more than what we originally had. And then that's for federal taxes. Your state taxes vary state to state. So depending if you live in Massachusetts, if you live in Connecticut, you're going to get taxed differently. And then you're also going to get taxed differently if you work in a different state than the one that you live in, which I learned last year and the year before when I was living in Connecticut. So beware of that when you're finding jobs near you, especially if you live in this Western Mass area and you're thinking about crossing the line. Know your withholdings. What withholdings do these percentages represent? 6.2%. I don't have anyone interacting with me at this point in time, so I'm not going to make you guys guess, but it's Social Security. That's how much they're taking out of your paycheck for Social Security. It's going into the pool of Social Security that everyone, hopes to live to retirement age to reap the benefits of. And then Medicare, which goes towards also people who are at retirement age and they need healthcare from the government. This is that basic healthcare that is provided when you hit retirement age, and that's 1.45% of your paycheck. And then if your job provides insurance or you put into a 401k, they're going to be taking out things for medical, dental, maybe life insurance. And then for your 401k, whatever you're putting in pre-tax, your employer will match up to a certain amount if you work for a very nice company. Not all of them do match, but a lot of them do. And if you're leaving that money on the table, you're leaving money on the table. It's free money. If you're able to take advantage of it, you really should. Okay, now we're gonna go through all of the workings of what I just said and put it back together. So your gross pay, if you're looking at your paycheck, that's what you got originally. If you're earning that $15 an hour, you worked your 40 hours this week, it should say about $600. You're going to take out your federal taxes, depending on which tax bracket you're in. Whatever state you live in, you're going to take out those state taxes as well. And then you're going to hop over to where your job provides your benefits. If your job doesn't have benefits, then you may not take anything out. If your job does, it might be a very small amount. It could be like $2, $3. It's all depending on where you work and what benefits you signed up for with your HR department when you were hired, and you can ask them, What benefits am I enrolled in? Can I change them? Those are all perfectly fine questions to go into your boss's office and ask. Please feel free. A lot of people don't ask and they get stuck in plans that they signed up for when they first started working, and when they actually need to use those benefits, they're not sure what it is that they have. So feel free to ask. Please, please don't be afraid to ask your bosses. Your HR office is there for a reason, and those people know the answers to those questions. And they want you to ask before you start filing claims and you get messy in a bunch of paperwork that you don't even know if you need. So please go and talk to those people. Subtract your Social Security tax. We talked about that 6.25%. And then subtract that 1.45% for your Medicare taxes, excuse me. And you're left with your net pay. So our next core competency is budgeting. Very, very important. First things first. So you're going to assess your current expenses. So you should have your rent or your mortgage at the top of that list. Where do you live? How much does it cost for you to live there? Groceries. How much do you spend on average at the grocery store? A lot of people spend a lot of money eating out. So when you're doing this, putting out your expenses and you're seeing like, oh, I spent $70 this week at eating fast food for dinner every day. Like, write that down. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's something that you need to, like, take account of. Like, if you're noticing, like, I have a client who, like, she loves to eat fast food with her boyfriend out like every other day, and like she spends a lot of money, like $200 a month just eating out, and it's like that money could be used elsewhere. And it's like, we aren't know how to cook. We spend enough time at home. There's no reason why we can't spend $100 on groceries and cut that number in half. So like, you really need to be honest with yourself when you're budgeting. I tell people to like print out their bank statements or have their bank statements available. A lot of people have a lot of different bank accounts, checking accounts, places that they scan, beep, whatever, that they are spending money. Like, really gather all of those things and map it out. Like, you really want to see where you're spending your money. And I promise you, you'll be shocked. Like, whatever it is, like, you could spend a ridiculous amount of money on like stupid things, like, whatever it is that you like, that you spend money on, like, that you may see as frivolous, you can plan that into your budget. Don't feel like you have to get rid of it, but like, make sure you're being honest with yourself when you're accounting for it in your expenses, or you won't know how to change. Okay, travel and transport. Your transit fees, car payments, gas, tolls, parking, etc. The thing that gets me is the tolls. If you drive a lot in anywhere in the United States and you're on the turnpike and you have a little, what's it called, the Easy Pass, those toll bills, they get you because you load your money up and you think you're good and you don't get any like text message alerts for a little while, and then you'll get one, you'll ignore it, and then like they won't send you another one till your bill is like $40, and you're like, dang, now I gotta pay like $70 to get out of the hole and load my thing back up. So make sure you're accounting for these things: tolls, car payments, gas especially. Gas prices fluctuate. You should know about how many gallons it takes to fill your tank, and like be able to estimate in your head when you're driving by the gas station, oh, I'm gonna spend $20 on gas this week. Like, those are things you want to be able to account for. Utilities: cable, internet, phone, gas, water, power. I'm not a fan of cable. I think it is a useless expense with all of the streaming services that are available out there. And I'm finding that a lot of people are still spending like hundreds of dollars a month on like cable that like their families don't watch, because all they watch is like Netflix and Hulu. And it's like, who really sits down to watch live television these days? I don't know very many people. So, keep those things into consideration when you're like looking at your budget. How can I cut back? Like, does your family really watch TV? Like, do you really use the house phone at your house? Like, I lived in a house with a house phone recently for like months, and I was like, this never rings. Like, this works? Like, why is this here? And like, those are things that you cut those expenses out if you can. Like that may take $10, $15 off of your cable phone and internet bill if you have some sort of bundle or something like that. Look for little ways to cut down your spending, because a lot of people are spending in excess of what they're actually using. A lot of people have, gym memberships that automatically take $15, $20 out of their bank account that they never use. Like things like that you can, cut out of your expenses because you're not actually utilizing them. Like, please don't be honest with yourself. Like really be honest with yourself when you're looking at what it is that you spend your money on. Shopping, dining out, traveling, events, etc. A lot of people want to automatically spend their money on these things after they take care of their bills before they save, or oh, I have money, it's Friday, I'm going to go out. Make sure everything else in your budget is taken care of, and make sure that you budgeted for eating out, dining out, shopping out, and you're not spending money that belongs somewhere else. Your money will go wherever it wants to go if you don't already give it a place to go when you get it. Does your income cover your expenses? It is extremely important to live within your means. Be realistic about what you can afford and what you can live without. If you're finding out that you have $800 worth of expenses in a month, this is just a rough number, and say you're only making that $600, something isn't adding up and you're not living within your means, and you either need to find another source of income or you need to cut back on your expenses. So, be realistic about what it is that you can afford and what it is that you can live without. Everything is a trade-off. So, cutting back can be simple and painless. Think about this. Go to Dunkin' Donuts, you spend $5. Starbucks, $5. So I've never spent $5 on a drink at Dunkin' Donuts. Maybe Starbucks, but spend $5 on a latte. If I'm doing that every day, I'm spending $35 in a week. And in a month, that's $150. Now, in a year, I'm spending $1,825. And if I bought an espresso machine that could make a latte for me for $109, that's probably a really nice espresso machine at that. That's a very, very small fraction of the cost, And I think a lot of people will make excuses like, oh, the espresso machine's not going to make it for me the way I want it to, the way they do at Dunkin' Donuts. And it's like, they have one of those, like the Keurig pop-it thingies. You put them in, you set your settings, you put all your things in, you can set it to brew your coffee before you even wake up in the morning. So by the time you put your feet on the floor, your cup's ready to go, There's a lot of technology out there, and I hate to say it, but like, it really comes down to that. Like, you could decide, I'm not going to spend any money in Dunkin' Donuts this month. I'm going to go buy myself an espresso machine and pods and still not even spend, the amount of money that I would have spent in Dunkin' Donuts. Like, that's the trade-off. Are you willing to make it, or do you want to continue to spend thousands of dollars on coffee every year? These are the personal choices. Everything costs something. Are you willing to pay? Putting together a budget. So you should ask yourself, what are my savings goals? For me, I think that as far as an emergency savings, you need to have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses put away. If something happens to you, if you're sick, you're out of work, if anything, you never know what could happen. Anything happens. Like, that is your money for when an emergency happens. You blow a tire, you get an unexpected bill, you end up in the hospital, you have a hospital bill, like something could happen. Like, that money is there to take care of you if you need it. So if I were somebody who, is new to budgeting, I would figure out what 3 to 6 months worth of expenses looks like, have that goal number in my head, or those goal numbers that you want to float in between. And, it doesn't have to be a ridiculous amount of money. It could be $10, $20 here. you know, just as you have it. But, you know, keep in mind, like, that money isn't going anywhere. It's going into a savings account that you have access to, but you need to use restraint. Like, you need to know, is this really an emergency, or am I just taking this money out because I want to, you know, go to the club this weekend and my paycheck wasn't looking like the way I thought it was. Like, those are the things that you need to really be considering. And what is a realistic spending target? Like, you really should not be spending all of the money that you're making. You really should be saving at least a little bit. Like, if you come off of a 365-day year with $0 in your savings account and you worked every week of that year, what do you have to show for it as far as putting towards next year and putting towards your growth? What are you, you know, working on? And you should be putting money away because something could happen. Your job could, you know, implode and everybody's laid off for a week, God forbid. But, like, you know, you never know when something might happen, and you never know when you might need money in a bind. How to hold yourself accountable. Track your income and expenses monthly. A lot of people have bills that come up on the first. I recommend, you know, sitting down the last couple of days of every month and, like, going through my spending and, you know, planning out my budget for the next month. Like, these are the expenses I know I'm going to have coming up, and this is the money that I know that I'm going to make. Or, you know, you want to make sure that you're holding yourself accountable and that you're actually looking back. The only way that a monthly budget, a weekly budget works is if you actually go back through the week and you track what it is that you spent. Because if you don't, then how will you know if you're actually sticking to it? How will you know if it's actually working? And I'm not saying, like, putting money away in a savings account, like, yeah, you're going to see that grow, but, like, you may not have money to put away in a savings account every week. Like, don't beat yourself up about it. Like, you're saving as you can. Like, if you have bills to pay and your bills are, you know, due, like, don't put $40 in your savings account because you were, you know, sticking to that regimen of putting $40 in every week. Like, don't feel like you absolutely have to do it. It's for emergencies. Paying your bill is priority. That's your emergency right now. If you have that money in your pocket, like, you know, take care of that expense. But you need to find something that works for you. So I like writing these things down. I like to see it on paper. Some people want a spreadsheet. You can Google budget sheets and it'll list everything out for you. You can break it down into, you know, as many individual categories as you need, but find something that works for you. And it really only takes a Google search to, you know, have all of the options in the world put in front of you. So don't be intimidated by it. If we were in person, there is a budgeting worksheet in the workbook. So if you do want that, please reach out. I will get it to you. Saving. A lot of people aren't sure how much it is that they feel they need to be saving. So we're going to talk about emergency funds, large purchases, and your future family, children, college planning, things of that nature. Starting early. So, time costs money. When people say that time is money, time really is money. And the longer that you put off putting money away, the more money that you're going to have to put away to get where you were trying to get to originally. So, say you're 30 years old and you put away $2,000 a year until you're 60 years old. What is the cost of waiting? So, if you're 30, excuse me, $2,000 a year to get to 60 gives you $60,000, right? You put $60,000 in, that money is going to sit there and it's going to grow. And by the time you actually turn 60 years old, you're going to have $244,692 put away. And that's assuming, you know, an annual rate of 8%. You know, it doesn't take into account taxes or anything else like that, but these are just figures that we're working with here. Say you waited till you're 32, right? Now, instead of putting away $60,000, you only put away 56 because it's still the same $2,000 a year until I turn 60. When you turn 60, though, that money is only going to equal $205,000 and not $205,932,000. Excuse me. So you waited only 2 years and you lost out on almost $40,000. Like, that's a lot of money. Now, say you waited 5 years, 35. So you're only putting away $50,000 now. And then by the time you hit 60, that money is going to be $157,909. Like, you're just losing money the more time you're waiting. And keep in mind, we're putting in less money, yes, but also you're giving less money the chance to grow, right? And then say if you waited 10 years and you put in $40,000. So your money would only grow 98,846. So the cost of waiting in this situation is almost $150,000, right? And you're like, think to yourself, like, for you, the literal cost was 10 grand. Like, you decided you wanted to keep 10 grand to yourself between age 30 and 60. I hope you spent it on something very good. And you cost yourself in retirement age $150,000. That's just the cost of waiting. This isn't in any specific product. This is just investing money and assuming we get an 8% annual rate of return. Like, that's it. So I really want you to think about this when you're putting away money for retirement. You should be starting early. I know a lot of young people are like, oh, that's something I'll worry about in my 30s or in my 40s. And it's like, if you keep putting these things off, like, when are you going to do it? In your 30s, hopefully, if that's what you want, you'll have kids, or you'll be buying a house, or, enjoying life. Like, you'll want to spend your money on something at all of those periods of time. You'll have to spend your money on something during all of those periods of time in your life. But you're not getting any younger, and you're not, really accumulating any more money in the future that you're prepared to put away to grow. And it's like, I understand some people are, fresh out of college with a nice large head on their shoulders, and they genuinely believe they're going to go on to make, hundreds of millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars in their lifetimes. And that's perfectly fine. All the best to them, all the best, to everyone looking to be that successful. But let's be realistic about, the lives we're living and the money that we're planning on making in this lifetime. And how much money we're planning on saving, considering the lifestyles that we live currently. So, start with your basis. You want to be saving towards, like I said, your emergency funds. If you're making large purchases in the future, you want to buy a house, you want to buy a car, those are things that you should, think about short-term investing. How can I put this money away and have it hopefully grow just a little bit so that I'll have a little bit more to put towards something that I'd like to purchase? Your future family, your children, your college planning. What do you want to leave behind for your children? How do you want to retire? What does your retirement life look like? Can I send my kids to college? Would I like to send my kids or my grandkids to college? Like, those are things that, people are planning for. Those are things that people are saving money for. And then the next core competency is borrowing. So borrowing is a tricky one because there's a lot of different types of debt and a lot of different ways that, your credit score and the way that you're allowed to take on debt is calculated in, behind the scenes. A lot of things that people don't actually get to see up close. So there's common types: credit card debt. A lot of people have mortgages on a home. A lot of people have student loans. car loans, and then there's predatory debt. There's payday loans, like they offer you an advance on your paycheck, you know, ahead of time, and they trick you into thinking that you're going to be paying back a certain amount of money within a certain period of time, but you're really just, you know, paying off their fees and reinstating a loan, and you're not actually paying the principal. And it's this crazy scheme that, rips thousands of people off of a lot of money every year, and it really should be banned, but it's not. But do not sign up for payday loans because they are a trick. Do not do it. And then there's lines of credit where someone will let you have something, some sort of product or money, and you owe them. And however they choose to collect that debt is between you and them. That's not the kind of debt you want to take on. So if it's being offered to you and it looks too good to be true, it probably is. Say no. So credit card score competencies. So these are the things that your credit card score is made up of. And these are the things that you should be conscious of when you're working with a credit card and you're getting a credit card for the first time. Like if you want a credit card, you should be aware. New credit and types of credit. So your credit score is made up of all of the loans, all of the debt that you have outstanding. And how often you're taking on this new debt. Like, did she just go, get a mortgage and get a car in the same month? Or like, is she, taking on student loans? Or like, how is this person managing their debt? Your payment history. Are you paying your bills on time? Basically, like that's something creditors want to know. If I'm gonna, offer you my product or service based on just, your word, like, are you actually gonna pay me on time? Like that's what I want to know. Your credit history. Do you have a history of paying your bills off? Like, do you have a history of taking care of your debt? And then your outstanding debt. How much debt does this person currently have? And how much debt are they really prepared to take on? Based on, your income and things of that nature when you fill out those applications for credit cards and things of that nature. So when you're doing those things, like young people, beware. Like, do not sign up for 1,000,001 credit cards just because they're sending them to your house. Like, I signed up for one credit card and I've literally gotten like dozens of letters in the mail, and they come, with a shiny new card and it's got like puppies or something on it, and they're like, it's already pre-approved, just peel the sticker and call the number and we got you. Like, don't fall for it, because that's going to go on your record and it's opening up a new line of credit. And are you paying that off, and are you closing these lines of credit? I also want to know, are you like a reliable person? Are you someone that we can count on to keep your line of credit open with us? Because obviously we want you to take our money so we can take your money, because credit card money is very expensive money. And then, mortgage loans, mortgages, car loans, student loans, are all also types of debt that you take on, and that you should, like I said, be wary. Make sure you're paying these things on time. Make sure that you're not taking too many of them on at once, and make sure that you're actually, being considerate and careful when you are taking on new types of debt, because all of them do go on this record and your creditors will see them. And when you're, looking to do things like take out a mortgage, take out student loans, take out car loans, they look at these things and they base them off of your credit. So our last core competency, my favorites, protecting. Don't forget about protecting. Your most important asset is you. So that means that you need to, be protecting yourself with health insurance for sure, because it is so easy to get sick. It is so easy to get hurt, ill. I'm not like, the odds of something happening are, more often than not. You want to be prepared in case something does happen. You never know. anything could happen. Medical bills are ridiculously expensive. It is ridiculously expensive to receive basic care in the United States. So make sure that you're protecting yourself. You should absolutely have health insurance. Make sure that you're protecting your family. You should have, homeowners insurance, auto insurance, um, in case something happens on or in your property. Um, Make sure that you're protecting your family in case you're not here. If something happens to you, if you're sick or hurt, is your family going to be taken care of? Are you going to be taken care of? All things you need to consider. Protecting your human capital, life insurance products, managing costs for extended periods of care, and disability insurance. So, protecting your family when you're not here is the entire purpose of life insurance. At some point in time, unfortunately, we are all going to die, but we don't know when and we don't know how. So, we want to make sure that if something does happen to us, our family is taken care of. You can prepare for a lot of things, but unfortunately, most people, the only way that you're going to get a lump sum of money that's going to be able to feed your family and keep them in their home immediately at your passing is through life insurance. So, something, needs to fill that void. Something needs to make sure that your family is able to continue the standard of living that they currently have. And for a lot of people, that does exactly that. And there's a lot of different types of life insurance, and there's a lot of different, you know, products and plans that you can put in place to make sure that those things are taken care of. Managing costs for extended periods of care. So unfortunately, it's like 60% of people over the age of 65 are going to have some sort of long-term care event in their lifetime. And it eats away at your retirement funds. It eats away at your savings. It eats away at any money that you have put away for anything because you're scrambling to pay those medical bills that I was talking about. They can get ridiculously expensive. And especially if you're sick and you need to be in care for a long period of time. And unfortunately, towards the end of our lives, a lot of people become ill before they pass away. And you don't want, to be ill and your spouse or whoever is taking care of you and you're eating away at, say a retirement fund that the two of you were sharing. And then they're taking care of you. And at the end of that care, you're gone. And so is the money because it went towards taking care of you. So something else to consider. You yourself, if you're healthy today, you're blessed, but that's not always going to be the case for everyone. So prepare for it because unfortunately, the statistics of it happening are very high, as well as disability insurance. Unfortunately, a lot of adults are going to be disabled in this lifetime and unable to work, unable to fulfill their roles in their current jobs or whatever jobs that they're pursuing. And you want to be able to, still bring in an income if something does happen to you and you're unable to go to work, even if it is for a short period or a long period of time. And disability insurance can take care of that for you, and it can provide a significant amount, 60% of your income, if something happens. So it is smart to put away a small portion of your income if you're able towards disability insurance, because you'd rather have that small portion taken out when you are able than lose all of it when you're not. I hope that you all, learned something through this PowerPoint. The key takeaways are: what are you going to do differently? And what are you going to start doing? If you decided that you wanted to start budgeting or get insurance or, I don't know, put money away towards a savings account, even if you just open a savings account and never use it, then I am happy and satisfied that I, made you think about trying to save. I hope you enjoyed this PowerPoint presentation. Hope you come and visit me in person and we can go through this together. Make it Springfield, Whittington Street, Tuesday, February 25th, 7:30 p.m. I will see you there. I hope to see you there. Thank you very much. Knowledge is power, action is power. So, you know, you have the knowledge because I hope that I was able to get it across to the point in a way that, made a point to somebody somewhere and actually acting on it and, putting it into motion, putting a plan into place and actually following it so that you can achieve your goals is really something amazing. And I would love to sit down with each and every person watching who actually watched to this point in the video and, work on a plan together and help you achieve your goals and, go through a lot more details than are in this PowerPoint. But thank you very much. And yeah, have a great night.